Okay. Alright, I think we're ready. Alright, so we're talking about the government. We talked about how there are 3 different layers. There are 3 different levels. There's the local government, state government, and federal government. Today we're talking about the state government. We're going to read this passage, state government and its citizens. And we're going to see what are the different things that the state government does for the citizens. What would our state government be? Our state government is going to make decisions for what state? Tennessee, because we're from Tennessee. At the top, I want you to write TN. We're from Tennessee, so when we talk about the state government, we're talking about the government that makes bills and helps protect Tennessee. Okay, so our state government is for the state of Tennessee. Then it says, and its citizens. When it says citizens, what is a citizen? What is a citizen, Rylan?
It's like people.
People that what?
Live there.
That live there. So its citizens would be us, the people that live there. So the state government is the government of Tennessee, and the citizens would be us, right? Yeah. So we're going to see, what does the state government do for us? What is the state government's job, and how does it help us? That's what we're reading about today. At the top, the yellow Post-it note tells us our job today. It says, as you read, don't forget to distinguish between important and unimportant information. Annotate the important information you identify. So we're going to determine, we're going to read this text, and we're going to figure out what's important and what is not important. Okay? We do that. As a reader, we pick out what's important to make sure that we really understand the text. If you can tell me what was important, then I know you understood it. Okay? So paragraph 1, I'm going to read it to you, and I'm going to show you how to pick out what's important. And then later, you're going to do some of those by yourself. Do some as a class, and then some by yourself towards the end. Okay? So everybody's on paragraph 1. Ready? Ready, Anna? All right, paragraph 1. It says, in the United States, the national and state governments work
Together
to help citizens. This system of shared power is known as federalism. The 10th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution helps define how the two governments work together. James Madison, nicknamed the father of the Constitution, further explains this relationship in an essay in the Federalist Papers. Okay, so if I was looking here in this paragraph and I was trying to figure out what is important, I know I'm supposed to be looking for what the state government does and what it does for the citizens, what it does to help the people. So when I read that, there's really only one sentence that tells me what the state government does. The rest of the sentences in there tell me what federalism is, about the Constitution. I want to know what the state government does. So when I look at that first sentence, it says, in the United States, the national and state governments work together to help citizens. So I know that this state government, one of their jobs is to work with the federal government. Those two governments are going to work together for me and for you and for the citizens of Tennessee. Okay? So I want you to get your highlighter out, and I want you to highlight that sentence. That's the important sentence in that paragraph. It tells us what the state government's job is. And then leave your highlighter out. You'll need it quite a bit today. Okay, so when I look here, I know that we're talking about the national, which would be the federal government, and the state government working together. It says this system of shared powers is known as federalism. So when they say federalism, what does that mean? Let's make an inference. Read that sentence to yourself. What does the word federalism mean based on those clues? What do you think it means, Cadence?
People who work together.
People who work together. And when we look at the sentence before that, we're on the national. Sorry. The national government and the state government. So we're talking the national government and the state government working together. And here we're talking about shared power, them still working together. It's called federalism. That means federalism means when this government and this government work together. It's not like Donald Trump's out there working all by himself. And then Bill Lee's out here working all by himself. They work together to protect us. That's what federalism is, when the different parts of government work together. Okay? Now here, the Federalist paper, in here, don't circle it. I'm just trying to bring your attention here. In the Federalist paper, they're going to tell us, even though they work together, there are some things that the state does, and there are some things the federal government does. They don't do all the same things. Okay? So we're going to read this to figure out, what does the federal government do? What does the state government do? What are their different jobs? Okay? Read this for us, Macklin. Everybody's following along.
The Federalist Papers. Madison and others wrote the Federalist Papers to support the ratification or passing of the Constitution. The powers delegated by the postponed Constitution to the federal government are few and defined. Those which are to remain in the state governments are numerous and
Indefinite.
The former will be exercised
Principally.
on external objects as war, peace,
Negotiation.
negotiation, and
Foreign commerce.
the powers reserved to the several states will extend to all the objects which, in the ordinary course of affairs, concern the lives, liberties, and properties of the people and the internal order, improvement, and prosperity of the state. James Madison, Federalist, number 45.
Good job. Okay, so here it says the powers reserved to several states will extend to objects which, in the ordinary course of affairs, concern the lives, liberties, and properties of the people, the internal order, improvement, and prosperity of the state. Those specific things, all eyes here, those specific things are what our whole text is going to be about today. So we're not going to spend a lot of time trying to figure that out because we're going to read the rest of the text to figure it out, okay? What we are going to spend some time working on are these above it. It says the former, when it's talking about the former, it's talking about the federal government. That's the one they talked about first. So the federal government's job, it says, is to think about things like, or to govern things like war, peace, negotiation, and foreign commerce. So if we were to go to war, Tennessee doesn't decide that. The United States, the federal government would decide that, right? Tennessee by itself is not going to go to war. We wouldn't be very good at war if we went by ourselves, right? It's something that the whole nation would decide together, right?
Yes.
That would be the the federal government. If we're talking about foreign commerce is like when we trade with other foreign states, like China. When you buy things, a lot of times they'll say made in China. So we buy a lot of things from China. Our federal government makes laws that say things like they can't use certain materials. China can only use materials and send materials over here that are safe for us. The federal government makes those laws to protect us. Tennessee doesn't make those laws with China, or those bills with China. The state makes laws and bills that are for the state, for Tennessee. Do you see how those two are different?
Yes.
Okay. So, those are some jobs for the federal government. Now we're going to get into what are the specific jobs of the state. That's what we're talking about today. Okay? This just kind of lets you see that there are two different levels there. So let's look at paragraph 1. No, paragraph 2. Sorry, I read paragraph 1. Paragraph 2. Read paragraph 2 for us, Kate. Everybody's following along. Paragraph 2.
The federal government cannot meet all the needs of America.
Citizens.
So the solution says that
Constitution.
says that each state is responsible for protecting the lives and liberties of its own citizens.
Mhm.
Also, different states have different issues. For instance, water conservation is a big issue in California because the severe
drought.
drought there, and its effects on the state's agriculture.
Mhm.
In Wisconsin,
In Wisconsin.
protecting livestock is a major concern because dairy
No, she had it right. She had it.
dairy farming is a big industry that each state government responds to the specific needs of.
Good. Okay. So when we look in this paragraph, if I'm thinking, I'm going to do this one again, and then on the next one, I'm going to let you pick out what's important. Cadence did a really good job of reading that paragraph for us. If I want to know what's important in that paragraph, remember, I'm thinking about what is the state government's job for the citizens. So for us, what is the state government going to do for us? If I was looking for what they do specifically, if it says the federal government cannot meet all the needs of the American citizens. Well, that's not the federal government. I'm looking for something about which government?
The state.
State. So that's not going to be the most important. When I look under that, it says, so the Constitution says that each state, and I'm talking about the state government. The state is responsible for, so if I'm responsible for it, that means it is my job, right? My duty, yes. Is responsible for protecting the lives and liberties of its own citizens. So the state government's job is to protect my life, right? To do things for me, to protect me. That's their job. It says also different states have different issues. So what Tennessee does to protect me may not be the same thing they do in Florida. Because Florida's a different place, right? Like in California, it says they have to conserve water because there's a drought. So in California, it gets so hot, there's not a lot of rain. So they have to make sure that they protect the water they have so that the people will have water. Well, here, do we have that problem?
No.
No. So Donald Trump in the federal government, he's not going to make a law that says in the whole United States we need to conserve water. And so to conserve water, you need to turn your water off at this certain time or only use this much water a day. He's not going to do that because it's not a problem for the whole United States, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's only a problem for that area, for California. That's why the state makes some of those laws because not every state needs it, just some. So the state government makes laws that only that state needs. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Henry.
Is that why they need like city government, state government, and federal government? Because like you just said, the federal government, like in California, they had like a huge drought. That's not the federal government's like problem, I guess you could say.
Right.
Rather the state government's problem.
Absolutely.
And that's why they need like state government, city government, and federal government because the federal government can't do it all by themselves.
Absolutely. Love the way you explain that. Okay, so I want this highlighted on your paper. That's what's important. It's telling us that the state's job is to protect us. Whatever that means our state needs. Every state is different. What they need in California is not what we need in Tennessee. Okay, now if I was to look here, it says that in California they have a severe drought. It affects the state's agriculture. Is that important?
No.
It is to who? California. But is it a huge deal for us in Tennessee?
No.
No. So because it's not important everywhere, we're not going to highlight that. It's not the most important. It doesn't tell me about the state government. It tells me about California, but not here. Okay? All right, let's look at paragraph 3. Read paragraph 3 for us, Layla.
Like the federal government, each state has its own constitution, which is the plan for the government. The Constitution explains the structure, role, and work of the state government. In the United States, state governments are modeled after the federal government. However, most citizens have more contact with state and local governments than they do with the federal government. The state is and the local government handle state and the police, schools, and liberty.
Okay, so there it tells me some things like what the Constitution's role is, and that we have a plan, and it's kind of like the federal government. So those are some details, but does that tell me what the state government's job is?
No.
No, there's one sentence in there that does tell me the state government's job. Which sentence in there tells you the state government's job for the citizens? Everybody should be looking for it, Damien. What sentence is going to tell you the state government's job? What the state government does for us? I'm coming around to look on it. Everybody put their finger on it. So some of us are looking for it, and some of us are waiting on our friends to answer for it. Good.
Okay, this tells me that they do work in the United States, but what do they work for? What do they do to help me? What are they in charge of?
Good. Good.
Okay, this tells me that they do work, the state government works, but what specifically do they work on? Okay, that tells me the state government's more like the federal government. Does that tell me what the state government does? So what does the state government do? Good. Good. Yes, right here. Okay, what does the state government do? That tells me the citizens do. I want to know what is the job of the state.
Okay. Tell me what you got, Cadence. What would be the most important? What tells me the job of the state?
Handle states and local police.
Okay, they handle the state and local police. Keep on going, the whole sentence. What else?
Schools and liberty.
Schools and libraries. Okay, so the state government is in control or helps govern the police. They fund the police, they train the police to protect us, right? The next one says schools. The state government funds schools. so that we have education. That is for us. That's what the state government does for us. They help fund libraries so that if you can't afford books, that's okay. You've got a library you can go to get books. That's things the government does for us. Now, I have a lot of you. A whole lot, Miss Amy. That when I was asking them to go find a sentence that would tell them the most important information about what this state government does, I had a lot of people that had this, a lot of people that had this, a lot of people that had this. And the reason, one, all eyes here. The reason is because you guys aren't thinking about what's important. One. You're thinking about, oh, let me just find the word state and underline that.
It's a good starting point.
It is. But you've got to read the whole sentence. When I read that whole sentence, does it tell me what the state government does?
Yes.
If it doesn't tell me what the state government does, it is not my most important information. If you want to know what the state government does, then yes, look for the word state and government. Start there, but then read the rest of that sentence. If you just look at the word state government and you're like, yep, that's important, that's being real lazy. Now, if you really think that that's it, then we can talk about it and we can explain, well, I think that's important because of this. But if you're just underlining something because it has the word state, that's not a good idea. We understand? We're going to have to put some effort into this. Yes, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So the state government helps fund the police, schools, and libraries. We're about to flip the page, and we're going to see how do they do those things. Okay? Everybody, turn the page. Miss Amy, I think after lunch, with the heat on, they are just a little tired today. Yes.
Hurry.
In just a minute.
Put it cold so
Okay.
I won't eat them.
All right. We are looking here. Here are some specific areas. Transportation. All eyes here. Transportation, public health and safety, and education. These are specific things that the state government does for us. We're going to read and see, how does the state government help with transportation? How does the state government help with health? How does the state government help with safety? How does the state government help with education? That's what we're looking for. When I say, how does the state government help with transportation, what does transportation mean? What is transportation? Before we read, what do you think transportation is? One, transportation.
Transportation, it's like you order something from like a store and you gotta go pick it up. Unless you were in quarantine, they had to bring it to you. That's transportation.
I love that, unless you're in quarantine. If you're in quarantine, you don't need to go pick it up. But, yes, you're right. If you order something and you go get it, the way you get there is your
Car.
So what is your transportation?
Your car.
Your car. Your transportation is the way that you get there. From one place to the next, right? That's transportation. Well, when I think about transportation, the way that I get from one place to the next is my car. Miss Elena, I bought my own car. The government didn't buy a car for me. So what do they mean when they say the government helps with transportation? That's what we're going to read about.
They give you money.
How do they help with transportation? Well, they didn't give me money for my car.
You have to earn the
Let's
money.
see. All right, so let's look at paragraph 4 and 5. Henry's going to read this for us. We're ready? 4 and 5. Everybody's there. You ready, Layla? Okay, go, Henry.
Government officials and agencies handle the infrastructure of states. An infrastructure is the base or foundation of a system. One part of a state's infrastructure is transportation. This means that the state takes care of its own roads, highways, and public transportation. Roads, highways, and public transportation greatly affects the state's citizens. Highways, streets, bridges, and tunnels connect communities. It is the state government's responsibility to maintain them so that people can travel and transport goods safely. State workers build and maintain roads and highways. They also repair bridges and tunnels. States collect taxes, tolls, and other fees from citizens to help pay for this work. This is a critical responsibility of the state government. As Christopher Dodd, a former Connecticut senator, said America's highways, roads, and bridges are an indispensable part of our lives. They link one end of our nation to the other. We use them each and every day for every conceivable purpose.
Good.
There
So
was-
between those two, do what?
I said there were some hard words in that.
There are, yes. Between those two paragraphs, what would you say? Remember, Miss Lena said she bought her own car. But they say the government helps with transportation. How does the government help me? Remember, we said transportation means to get from one place to the next. How does the government help me get from one place to the next? What does the government do? What is their job? How do they help with transportation? Damien? What does the government do here that would help my car get from my house to here?
The streets,
Okay, yeah, the streets. What do you mean the streets? What do they do?
like whenever you're driving your car, they help, like you don't get stuck.
Okay, how did we get those streets? What did the government do?
They'll the streets.
Yeah, those streets. Did Miss Elena pay for that street from her house to here?
No.
No. My car wouldn't be able to make it if the government had not built the road or the streets. Okay, so it says here, that means the state takes care of its own roads. Everybody highlight that. That is one way that they help with transportation. The state takes care of their own roads. They build them. When the roads get holes in them, they fix the holes. Is there another sentence in that paragraph that tells you some other things they do to help with transportation in paragraph 4, sorry. 1. Highways. It says roads, highways, and public transportation greatly affect a state's citizens. So they help build the roads. AJ, do you have that already? They help build the highways. And they provide public transportation. What is public transportation? It says the state gives me public transportation. We've already talked about how the state builds roads and highways. Now it says they do public transportation. What is that? Patrice?
It's not just for you, it's for other people too.
Okay, so how would other people and myself, how would we all work together? Or how would we all
Travel.
good word, travel?
Because every person has a car.
But do you and I ride in the same car together?
No.
Okay, so what if, Patrice, I don't have a car and you don't have a car, but we both need, let's say we live in Jackson, we both need to get to Walmart. But I don't have a car, you don't have a car, Cody doesn't have a car, Damien doesn't have a car, how are we going to get to Walmart?
They have sidewalks.
Okay, they do have sidewalks. Who builds the sidewalks?
The government.
The government. Okay, so that is a good answer. What would be another way of public transportation? Add on to that, Macklin.
Because the government also made bus stops for
Bus
you to go place to place.
Yeah. Now, we don't have them here. The reason I said Jackson is because we don't really have bus stops here. Allen's a little too small for that. But in Jackson, is there a public bus in Murray City?
I think so.
School.
Yeah, school. You may be thinking about school buses. But this is even for adults, people that don't go to school. Sometimes they can get on a bus and take it from one place to the next. Like in Jackson, you can get on the bus over by where the mall is. Anybody been to the mall in Jackson? Okay.
Yeah.
And you can get on the bus there, and then the bus will take you over to like by Walmart. So across town.
And there's also
The only way that they can afford that bus is if the state has bought the bus, right?
Yes.
Now you still have to pay to get on the bus, but you don't have to pay a whole lot. That's public transportation. Anybody can get on that bus.
Yes.
And we have the bus in Jackson because the state did what?
Bought it.
Bought it. The state government did that. So they build roads, they provide public transportation. What else did you see in paragraph 5? What are some other jobs? I should say everybody looking for it. What's something else they do to help with transportation? Damien, I like that hand. You're going to dojo point.
They built tunnels and they built the bridges.
Okay. It says state workers. No, where's it at?
It says
The
on
very
the
first
first
sentence.
sentence.
Here. They also repair bridges and tunnels. Okay, so the bridges and tunnels, they build them, but then if they repair, if they, like let's say you have a wreck and you hit the bridge, if the bridge cracks, the concrete cracks, somebody has to fix that, right?
Yep.
Well, who's in charge of fixing it? The government. Yep. All right, Damien, you're going to dojo point. I like the way you're participating. Okay, I gave you one, but my volume's down. All right, give me one more. Rylan, I don't think I called on you today.
It says the state also collects taxes and tolls and other fees from citizens to help pay for this work.
Mm-hmm. So you have to pay taxes. I mean, it's like when you go to the store and you get a candy bar. It's not just $1. You might have to pay a little bit more because you have to pay taxes. And then tolls. We don't have tolls here. But, like, if you go to some other places, like I remember when I was a little girl, we went to Florida. They had a toll there. It's where they have, like, a stand or a worker stands. And before you can drive through, you have to give them
Like a card.
Yeah, we had them
money, right? So if I'm driving and then I get to a toll, there's somebody standing there in a little like house thing. Not a house, it's just like a small tiny building. And I have to give them money and then I can keep on going. When I come back the other way, I have to give them what? Money, and then I can keep on
It's
going.
like you're going
Okay?
to a water park and you have to like give them money to enter.
Like admission, yes. Okay, so taxes, tolls, that's how the government pays for them. The government does this stuff, but they have to have somebody to get the money for it. Yes.
Why do you have to pay tax and pay when you have to go through?
Well, what would happen if the government didn't have that money?
We wouldn't have roads.
Or we wouldn't have houses. Or
Yep.
cars.
Or a school. We wouldn't have nothing. We
So,
wouldn't have desks.
so the reason is to, okay, y'all are getting a little extravagant there, but the reason we have to pay taxes and tolls like that is because the government uses it for things for us, like the roads and bridges and things like that. Okay?
Miss Elena.
All right, we gotta move on. Let's look at public health and safety. Everybody look at public health and safety? Okay, when you look here, there are several things that we didn't underline.
Yeah.
Does that mean that they don't matter?
No.
No. They're just not the most important.
Important.
Okay? Alright, the most important, we're looking for what does the government do for us, for the citizens. Alright, so public health and safety. I want you to read these 2 paragraphs to yourself. And then I want you to find at least one sentence. How many? One sentence that tells you what the job of the government is. Okay, what did the government do to help the citizens? Everybody's reading those 2 paragraphs to themselves, 6 and 7. after you read those two paragraphs, I want you to underline at least one thing that tells you what the government's job is. I'm coming to check. What does the government do to help with safety and health? Let's just do one, so we're not underlining. You guys have one for 6 and 7. So go back and do one for 6 and one. Yeah, go back and do one for 6. So you should really have two. One for paragraph 6 and one for paragraph 7. What's important in paragraph 6? What's important in paragraph 7? Good. Okay, what's important in paragraph 7? Well, this tells me about the citizens. We can all work together. But what does the state do so that we even know the child is in safe? There you go. Okay, great. Now, just find one sentence. Don't underline the whole paragraph. What's one sentence that tells you what the state says? Okay, here, and return the child to safety. How do we know that the child isn't safe? What did the state do? So the state's job is to do what? What did you just say they did? So their job is to send a. That's the part you need to underline.
What is an ambulance? It's like something that pops up on your phone, and it's like.
No, you haven't done either of these.
And it's like.
You're way down here. We haven't even gone there yet. You're in the whole paragraph. Did you read these two? Okay, what's important in this paragraph and this paragraph? We're not there yet. Okay, this is true, but give me a specific way. Like, what is their job? Like, this would have been a really good answer. Okay, good.
Something like a library. No, that's not an ambulance. When a child does this,
Okay. When you were in paragraph 6, what did you say would have been the most important? What would have been a sentence that would have told you what the state government's job was in paragraph 6? Cadence?
the state government also protects the health and safety of citizens.
Okay, that's true. But what is a specific sentence that tells me how they do that? What is their job?
To help people to take care of people that are sick.
So how do they do that? Oh, you said yes, care for sick people. So some of the hospitals care for sick people that are run by state government. So the government helps take care of our hospitals. When the government takes care of the hospitals take care of
Us.
us. Okay? What would be another, so they take care of the hospitals, what's something else the state does? AJ, what's something you put? Okay, the state police patrol the highways to keep people safe. Is that what you said? Yes. So the state government takes care of the hospitals, and they also have police that patrol the highways. Now, when they're talking about the state police, they are not talking about Alamo City Police. They're not talking about Alamo Sheriff. That's the city government. They're talking about the state. When they talk about the state police, they're talking about the state troopers. Have you heard of the word state troopers?
Yes.
Okay. They usually have like tan and black colored cars in Tennessee. I don't know if that's the same in every state. Probably not. Okay. So in Tennessee, they're tan and black.
Yeah.
They're called state troopers. They're the ones that sit on the highway in Memphis and Nashville and
sometimes Florida.
Well, big highways.
big highways. Yes.
Like if we're going to Chicago or something.
Yes. But you would only see the Tennessee patrols, the Tennessee Highway Patrol, the Tennessee State Troopers in Tennessee, because it's only in that state. Every state has their own. Okay? All right, in paragraph 7, what did you say was important? What's important in paragraph 7? Annex.
If a child is missing, the state police can issue
Mm-hmm.
an umbrella
Alert. Yes. An Amber Alert is when a child goes missing. I don't know where my phone is. When a child goes missing, my phone will send a big, loud, like siren noise.
That's what mine does.
Yeah,
Mine
And
is annoying.
Yes, it just keeps on going, and they do that so that you will look at your phone and it'll come across a picture of the kid that's missing, and it'll say their name and how old they are and the last time they were seen. That's so that everybody is looking for that child, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of you said everyone can then work together to locate and return the child to safety. That is important. It is always important that if a child is lost, they get back with their parents, right?
Yes.
That's always important.
Especially.
But does that sentence tell me what the government does?
No.
No. What the government does is send out the Amber Alert. So the most important sentence is going to tell me what the government does is that first one that says they send out the Amber Alert. Okay? That should have been the one that we highlighted there. Some of you said that everyone can work together to locate the child, and that is important. But we're trying to think about the state government. What is the state government really in charge of? Okay? Any questions there? That one was a little tricky. All right, last section, education. Paragraphs 8 and 9. You guys did really well reading by yourself and finding important information. We're going to do the same thing for education. So you're finding one sentence that tells you what this state government does in paragraph 8 and 9. Okay?
And towns to set up school districts run by local school partners. State government and school boards spend the money they need to hire teachers and purchase books and other materials. Most state governments spend about 50% of the money needed to run public schools. The rest is from the federal and local government. Flip over. You can read that paragraph to yourself, okay?
Most states also have state colleges or universities where students can seek their higher education. State schools are public institutions that are often less expensive than private schools. Funds for education make up the largest part of most state budgets. Okay, now look at 8 and fill out how the state helps. They work with cities and counties to set up school districts, which are run by local school boards. The state government,
Whichever one you think tells you the most about what they do.
the money they need to hire teachers to purchase books and other materials. Most state governments fund about 50% of the money needed to run public schools. The rest comes from federal and local government.
Can you give me a
And
reason?
how does the state help education?
They work with cities and towns to set up schools. Just schools with are run by local school boards.
What do you think?
Did I do number 9 now?
Okay, what did you think? Which one here tells me how the state runs, helps education? What does it do? They work with cities and towns to set up school districts. I agree with you right on that.
They go.
This is
I think you're around there.
She also Medicaid because she works at a means consulting. My dad works at Medicaid too because
Keep going.
he's the one who's responsible
Would you keep in mind,
for tax like he's responsible
how does the
for
state help college?
the medicine and like how much it costs.
Read it again. Don't tell me all this. Let me see. Look at mine, Grandpa. Turn around. You're not supposed to be looking at me. Tell me how the state helps, colleges. What do you think? The state help colleges, universities where students can sit and learn. I think you're around it, but I don't think that's exactly. I think you're both.
Mine's for education and health make up a very large part of it.
I agree. Would you please, Carolyn? Most states have state colleges and universities where students can sit college. Institution and are often less expensive than private schools. Funds for education and health make it largest.
Class.
Yes.
Hey, you guys did really well with that. Some different things that you guys had underlined were the state government gives school boards some of the money they need to hire teachers and purchase books and other materials. A lot of you highlighted that sentence. That tells you that the government helps pay for teachers. The government helps pay for your books. The government helps pay for the school. If we didn't have the state government, we may not be able to have all the things that we have here at Alma.
And we could have had to
It says that they give, and some of you highlighted this, most state governments fund about 50% of the money needed. So if they give us half of the money we need, that's a lot of money, right?
Yes.
If we didn't have that much, if we didn't have that half, we'd have to find it from somewhere else. And if we couldn't find it, then we would have to go without some things. So they're the reason that we get such a good education and that later we're ready to go to college and we're ready to have good jobs. If we didn't have a good education, if they didn't give us a good education, then our life would be a lot harder when we got older, right? Okay. You should have had this highlight on transportation. When I went around and checked, some of you don't have it done. So you should have it underlined or highlighted. Is there anyone that doesn't have it done? Okay, get it done real quick. So you'll have it. Quick. Remember, if I do it up here, it should be done on your paper too. Because you'll need these things later in the week when we come back for other skills. Today we're figuring out what's important and what's not important. And then tomorrow we'll add something. We'll keep adding different skills to it. He's not here today. You're welcome. All right. Flip to the next page. Paragraph 9. What did you say was important here, Layla?
Funds for education and health make up the largest part of most states' budget.
Okay, so if most of the state's budget, most of their money goes to education, then that's a pretty big deal, right?
Yes.
That means that a lot of their money goes to education, meaning that their job is to give me a good education. What they do is give me a good education. Some of you said, really any of these three sentences would have been fine because they're all important. Some said that state colleges and universities, the state government helps with those colleges. State schools and public institutions are often less expensive. So when the state gives money for education, that means that our parents don't have to. Like your parents don't have to pay for you to go to school here. Because who paid for it?
The government.
The government, yeah. Now if everybody's parents had to pay a bunch of money for them to go to school, we may not all be able to come. Because some parents can afford it and some can't, right? Or maybe if our parents had one kid or two kids, they might be able to afford it. But if they had 5 or 6 kids, maybe they couldn't afford it, right? Mm-hmm. So If the government pays for it, that means that it's not just something that some kids get. It makes education something that all kids can get. Okay, that's how the government protects us. All right, last part, working together, and then we're going to take a bathroom break. Okay, working together. Patrice, read paragraph 10, and then I'll read paragraph 11 and 12 because I need to kind of get through this. All right, go ahead, Patrice.
Often state governments will work together in emergency. For example, when an ice storm hit New England, all the states and regions worked as a team to restore power for the citizens. All the states
Affected. Okay. Individual states also work closely with the federal government in emergencies. The federal government offers financial aid to help states build new homes and rebuild businesses lost in a disaster. State governments work for their citizens, often in concert with the federal government. Henry, follow along. As business leader Henry Ford said, coming together is a beginning, keeping together is progress, and working together is success. Helping people affected by disasters and protecting citizens are good examples of federalism at its best. So these paragraphs just kind of sum up different ways that the governments work together. The state government doesn't do everything on its own. It has some power that's just for Tennessee. The federal government doesn't control everything about Tennessee. There are some things the federal government controls, but then there are some things that our governor controls for the state. They kind of split those powers, and then they work together to protect us. Yes.
Is that why, like, on paragraph, on, like,
Hayden.
page, like, I think it's, like, page, like, 4 and 5 and stuff, they talk about, like, that, like, tree, I guess you'd say, like, the 3 branches, what is it called, the branches of something.
Branches of government?
Yeah, the branches of government. Is that why they, like, did that?
Yes, because, yes.
So, like, how
So that they don't all have, so that the president doesn't have all the power.
Yeah, so
or,
like kind of in Great Britain or something like that. They have a king, like
yes,
a queen,
and
they have all the power.
Yes, but here we have the branches of government: judicial, legislative, and executive. That model's throwing me off, sis. All right, we have judicial, legislative, and executive, and those 3 branches each have their own job. But they all work together so that the president doesn't have all the power. It's to keep things where it's best for us, and it protects us. It keeps the president from being able to just do whatever they want to, like you were saying the king does. Okay, we're going to move into writing in just a minute. We're going to use the same passage for that, but we're going to take a quick bathroom break. While you're taking your bathroom break, I want you to draw. I'm going to call you a few at a time to go to the bathroom. While you're waiting, you're going to draw your writing man on the back of this. Okay. You're not filling it out yet. You're just drawing it. And I've got it right here so you can see what it looks like. I'll put it on the board so you can see it a little better. Drawing your writing man on the back. Okay? Leave your story out or this text because you will need it. 1 through 5 goes to the restroom. Quickly. We don't have long. Quick.
She said 1 through 5.
Can you do that with it? Uh-huh.
My other glasses. So I'm getting block glasses. No, mom's buying them.
Block?
Like blocks, you know that? The block glasses. Like when I go to the sun, it's like
Whenever you go out to the sun, it makes some sunglasses.
Is that what yours are, Marissa?
No.
Alright, so you're drawing your writing man on the back.